Hello, this is Brigadier P.S. Gotra, your host today. Today we will be discussing the biography of Field Marshal K.M. Cariappa. We'll be discussing the first part from the birth of Field Marshal Cariappa to the partition of India. Field Marshal Cariappa was in Madikeri, Coorg, Karnataka. He was the second among the six siblings comprising of four sons and two daughters. A large part of his personality was influenced by his parents. Field Marshal Cariappa joined Officers Training School Indore on 1st June 1918 and got commissioned into the 2nd Battalion of the 88th Carnatic Infantry on 1st December 1919. He was allotted the personal number of IA 927. He passed out seventh in the order of merit. Some of the lessons which he imbibed during the training were: the greater your knowledge of military duties and of customs and observance of army, regimental, and social life, the easier it will be for you to fall in line, gain the regard and friendship of your British comrades, and the confidence and respect of your men. In army, no one can be ignorant of orders and instructions. Learn to look out for yourself. Treat all on an equal footing. Have no cliches. Be an officer and a gentleman, always and every time. Remember what the religion teach: never to hurt others' feelings, never to do a thing that will lower our prestige, never succumb to the temptations, and maintain your integrity. These became the testaments of his unflinching faith in nobility of human conduct and much acclaimed an officer and a gentleman. Other lessons which he imbibed during the training were: the efficiency of military organization is based on discipline, without which it becomes a rebel. The collapse of Russian army in 1917 was entirely due to the breaking of bonds of military discipline. The best of the nations fell because of the lack of discipline. Develop a soldierly spirit. Besides devotion to the crown, a soldierly spirit stands for a value system and a set of principles rooted in the sense of humor, a zealous regard for good name of the regiment and one's comrades, selfless service, team spirit, and honorable dealing with men by leading through examples. There is nothing guarding an officer doing himself what he called upon his men to do. Take, lead, and set an example. A remarks of the commandant of the officers training school for Field Marshal Cariappa was: KMC had absorbed the most and has shown the promise of being a good officer. KMC was commissioned into Carnatic Infantry and subsequently served with 7 Dogra and 1st Battalion of the 7th Rajput, to which he finally got affiliated. He tenanted important regimental appointments such as adjutant and the quartermaster. During the course of the regimental services, he began to write for military journals. He saved sufficient money to travel around the world and broaden his horizon. The friendship with senior British officers led him to being encouraged to attend Staff College at Quetta, which was unthinkable for the Indian officers at that time, as only four vacancies were earmarked for them. KMC passed the entrance exam with flying colors and attended the Staff College. At Staff College, he espoused the following views. Since Indianization of the army was a certainty, greater opportunity should be afforded to the Indian officers to attend the Staff College. Modernization of the forces and developing of new tactics in keeping with the mechanization was very essential as opposed to the tactics of trench warfare of World War One. Future wars will be won by those with better technical and financial means. The standard of selection and grading should be the same for British and the Indian officers. Staff appointment tenanted by KMC. He was appointed as staff captain in Deccan Saberia, Bolaram, 1936. Then he was the brigade major of the Dera Jat Brigade in 1938. It was later called the 20 Infantry Brigade. He was DQ of 10 Infantry Division from March 1940. The 1939 is wrongly written. During this period, he was in Iraq and also visited Iran, Syria, and Western Desert of North Africa. So, operationally and logistically, he was trained to plan the operations of a brigade group in all operations of war and in any type of terrain. He took over the command of 7 Rajput on 15th April 1942 at 43 years of age with 22 years of service. He was first Indian commanding officer and had 8 British officers and 3 Indian officers under his command. As CO, KMC was flamboyant, effective, hard taskmaster, and a trainer. The unit comprised of Rajputs and the Indian Muslims, known for their tradition of gallantry and tenacity. Command tenure of Field Marshal Cariappa lasted till 1st April 1943, which enabled him to emerge as a more confident and better leader as the job demanded expertise of handling of troops under all circumstances. Recalling his command tenure, he said, a battalion is a unit with a life of its own. Whether it is good or bad depends on you alone. You have at least a real command. Staff appointment post command of a battalion. Field Marshal Cariappa volunteered to serve on a staff in a field formation committed to fighting the Japanese. Rather than counting the beans in the rear areas, he was responsible for logistical planning and visited all the forward troops. KMC relied on liaison, visits, and taking meticulous notes. He yearned to be the first Indian brigadier and then a general. He wanted to prove that the Indians can deliver the goods. KMC was awarded the Order of British Empire for his meritorious service as a staff officer. The citation highlighted his operational innovations, professional commitment, unflinching loyalty, and conscientiousness and commitment over and above the call of the duty. The hard work of Field Marshal Cariappa paid off when he was promoted to the rank of brigadier on 1st November 1944. His first assignment on being promoted was to form part of the Wilcox Committee, which was tasked to oversee the reorganization of the Indian Army, as part of which he visited many units, depots, and installations so as to proactively and meaningfully contribute to the task. Command of a brigade. Field Marshal Cariappa was appointed as brigade commander of Bannu Brigade in northwestern frontier province, which had become the graveyard of the British in their fight against the Willie tribesmen in protracted guerrilla warfare. The tribals would cut off water pipelines, snipe at supply columns, blow up bridges, and so on. In order to ensure success, Field Marshal Cariappa insisted on guile, marksmanship, and individual physical endurance. He insisted on the principle not to do the same thing, same way, and same time. Some of the changes that were brought out by Field Marshal Cariappa during the command of Bannu Brigade were: the animal and foot mobility was augmented by the vehicular transport and firepower. Ordinary transport was provided with thicker bulletproof bodies. Tanks and armored cars were made available for better protection and mobility. Field Marshal Cariappa also endeavored to win the hearts and minds of the local tribals. During the command of Bannu Brigade, he introduced an element of surprise and novelty in the tactics. For that, use of road opening parties was introduced to secure the roads. Random selection of road opening days, reduction in the length of the convoys, troops remaining self contained in terms of weapon, ammunition, ration, water, etc., for entire the length of the duty, wherein they occupied their positions at night and withdrew only after the convoy passed through. Physical manning of tactical heights for better surveillance and domination of roads. So, overall, he gave out 10 commandments. He said, remember always, the tribesman is a gorilla and he fights an irregular form of warfare. Until you outmatch in his irregularities of warfare, you will not really be able to defeat him. By the use of stratagem, mobility, and guts, you must force the tribesman to play the game of war your way and not his. When you are static and the tribesmen are mobile, you are in danger of being forced to play the game of the tribesman's way. The tribesman never wastes his ammunition and his wherewithal. Make sure you do the same and do not fire except to kill with certainty. The tribesman will not face the bonnet. Use all your cunning and brains to enable you to close on with him and kill him with the bayonet. The tribesman does not expect regular troops to make the hours of darkness their friend. Therefore, do so. Patrol activity, the armor is the cavalry of the today. If it can only be used by day, you are losing your mobility. In irregular warfare, it is the personal leadership which make for success. The men must have confidence in and be led by their officers. Take Wingate's force in the Burma as an example and consider the offensive spirit of the commander enthused into all his officers, and they in turn into their men. They became a determined and ruthless band of brothers, all out to excel in offensiveness and bravery. Make this your object in your unit. In the tribal warfare, retreat is fatal. If you are stupid enough to lose the initiative and have to fight a defensive action, it must literally be fought offensively and to live to the limit of resources available. Counterattack, even to assault with bayonet, should never be in mind. Such bold action will usually result in initiative being regained. Nothing encourages the tribesmen so much has to see his enemy running away, and especially if he is discarded his weapons. The tribesman is not a stare, he is a peacock, vain and easily discouraged. Therefore, you need have no fear of him if you have learned and are determined to use the previous rules. Measures to maintain high morale and physical fitness. He improved the medical facilities, encouraged troops to participate in sports. He set a personal example by playing hockey with troops, improvement in the canteen services, introduction of a separate mess for the Viceroy's commissioned officers. These are called JCOs today, thereby improving their status, dignity, and morale. Overall, he laid the foundation for operational effectiveness and humane and good conduct with the locals. His hard work as a brigade commander led him to being nominated for attending the Imperial Defence College in UK. And then came the partition and the challenges posed by the partition and the Indianization of the armed forces. The wartime expansion took the strength of Indian Army to 18 divisions, Navy to 30,000 men, and Air Force to 29,000 men. The World War II ended abruptly due to the atomic bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, thus leading to change of priorities. Field Marshal Auchinleck, the C-in-C of the Indian Army, ordered the formation of the Reorganization Committee in 1945. He was impressed by Field Marshal Cariappa and appointed him as member of the committee. Field Marshal Cariappa had independent views which he recorded in the manuscript copy of the report submitted by the committee. These views are interesting. While the Britishers thought that the Indianization be arranged in such a way that the Indians form only 50% of the officers' cadre, KMC or Field Marshal Cariappa insisted on 100% Indianization and recorded his protest in writing. The Viceroy's commissioned officers to be eliminated, but Field Marshal Cariappa did not agree to this recommendation and insisted on their continuation with improvement in status, pay, and responsibilities. Britishers preferred a 15 to 20 years time frame for only 50% of the Indianization. Field Marshal Cariappa preferred it to be a 10-year time frame and hence refused to be a signatory of the report. Field Marshal Cariappa was appointed as one of the presiding officers of the court martial convened to try the detainees of the Indian National Army, INA. He urged the C&C to show magnanimity in dealing with the INA detainees under trial. His opinion was valued, and the prime accused were let off, and the political amnesty was granted to many others. The grant of independence led to everyone being let off as they were treated as freedom fighters. In keeping with the military ethos, he, however, opposed the re-entry of the INA detainees into Indian Army as they were politically exposed. The challenges of the partition. The partition of the subcontinent led to the partition of the armed forces, whose details were to be worked out in mere 45 days. The partition was planned in two stages as under. In the first stage, forces were divided on communal basis, followed by immediate movement of all Muslim majority units to Pakistan with concurrent move of non-Muslim units to India. In the next stage, The move of volunteers took. Similarly, 2, 6, 7th, and 10th Gurkha Rifles were allotted to the British Army. 1st, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 9th Gurkha Regiment remained in India. A total of 86 battalions were with India and 45 were allotted to Pakistan. Cadets who were under training in IMA Dehradun were to be commissioned by their respective governments on completion of their training. The naval assets were divided based on the length of the coastline. One transport squadron was given to each, that is Pakistan and India. India got 6 fighter squadrons and Pakistan got 2 fighter squadrons. Views of Field Marshal Cariappa on the bifurcation of the armed forces. He said, a powerful army unaffected by communal virus would be of great assistance in overseeing the peaceful and orderly transfer of population from one country to another. The partition of the armies and the consequent weakening of the strength would make both the countries vulnerable to external attack. British officers should be retained to oversee the training and administration of newly divided armies. That brings us to the end of the part 1. Thank you.